Business Morning. Today, as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at the latest development at the Nigerian capital market. That's the report that was released yesterday, or two reports actually released, or two developments, if you will, announced yesterday. One from the ad hoc committee that investigated the near collapse of the Nigerian capital market. Well, they released their report and recommendations. Well, a few hours after that, the federal government, through the special advisor on media to the president, Mr. Reuben Ebati, also announced that they have reviewed the audit report from PricewaterhouseCoopers, the external auditor that was contracted to review the handling of the SEX Project 50. Well, they said that she was neither indicted for fraud or any criminal breach of operations concerning that Project 50. So we have these two reports, and we have also been having different reactions to both developments. So joining me now is Wale Oluwo. He's the Chief Executive Officer, Investment Banking at BGL Group. Thank you so much, Wale, for being here. Esther. Now, well, we do know that this market that we're dealing with, the Nigerian capital market, it's news-driven, it's a sensitive market, and all that's been going on, of course, we can safely describe it as controversial, something the market obviously doesn't need, at least for those who know that the capital market operators and perhaps the committee members themselves and all the parties involved. So this latest development, what are your thoughts on this report? First, the Osude report, and then a few hours later, the announcement by the federal government.
I don't think we should bother ourselves too much about what the impact of this will be. Fine, it's not good for the market, but we must move beyond that, because everybody knows that the market has its own challenges. So we cannot say we will not come into the open in the course of resolving those challenges. What is important is that whatever process we are taking, or the government is taking, and all stakeholders, must be such that, it must be seen to be transparent, it must be seen to be addressing the issues, it must be seen to be fair, and it must be seen to be compliant with all the extant laws. I think that is what is important. There is no market that will not have its own infractions or its own challenges, but what matters is everything must be brought to the public for, because capital market is all about public. And I think we've seen that happen. Now, there seems to be a conflict. On one hand, the House of Reps has released its report, excuse me, and then on the other hand, the federal government has come out to comment on the Pricewaterhouse report. Let me put it this way. The House of Reps committee was mandated to take a holistic approach to the capital market, why it collapsed, why we are where we are now, today, and how will we move forward. So I think that is a more holistic gathering. But now, the outcome of the PricewaterhouseCoopers was limited to the Project 50. And I think the spokesman of the president said that yesterday, that look, the report did not indict her for fraud or
concerning
for
the Project
but they
51.
Talked about some administrative lapses. I think that can be dealt with at the civil service level. But as far as we are concerned, the report will be debated today, and I think the most important thing is let's see how it will play out, because even after the report, it is still going to go back to the same executive, and the president is going to review it, make his determination, and pass it to the appropriate agency, so that those that are administrative, they will be dealt with administratively. Those that are regulatory, they will be dealt with accordingly.
Because many people, there's so many reactions have been coming in, and for those that I have spoken to and some other analysts that we have put on air, it seems like everybody says that this is not exactly an ideal situation where the federal government, where this report freshly released by the people who were put together to investigate the near collapse of the capital market, the report's still there, and then federal government comes and announces and says, she can go back to work. So what would have been the ideal situation in terms of following due process?
If you look at it historically, I think our compulsory leave was sanctioned by the board of SEC. Now the board is not in situ anymore. Now, it was for her to step aside so that she would not, disturb the investigation. And I think that has been achieved. Now, mind you, the president appointed her and the Senate confirmed her. Now, based on that report, which was the reason why she was asked to step aside so that, she would not obstruct investigation. That report has been submitted. The federal government had two options: either to wait for the House of Reps committee report, and that will still go through its own process, because they are going to debate it, there will be resolutions
before it finally gets to the
executive. And when it gets to the executive, there will be another round of investigation, particularly if some of the issues borders on indictment that are regulatory, some might be administrative, which will go to the secretary to the government or the head of service. So anyway you look at it, it's still going to be a process that will continue. And I suppose, I mean, I cannot, I'm not speaking for the federal government, but I suppose what put them in that position to make that decision was that, look, if this was the reason why she was asked to go on compulsory leave, then it makes sense to say, resume back. It will not disturb anything, because, you know, we should be used to processes. There's a process. It does not matter whether the DG has resumed or she has not resumed. What matters is that that process will still continue, and if there are issues, those issues will be resolved.
Okay, so she can go back to work, as the federal government has asked her to do, and then the report from the House of Ad hoc Committee of the House of Reps can still be debated on.
It will not disturb the House of Reps from going through its own processes. Because
the outcry over the issue is, you know, why should she be allowed to come back to work when the report has not been deliberated on?
No.
That's
the House of Reps processes was not the one that puts her on compulsory leave in the first instance. Okay. So they are different. I think we should situate this within the context of how separate they are, and we deal with them separately. That House of Reps process did not put her on suspension, or not suspension, on compulsory leave. Yeah. Now it was the board that put her on compulsory leave, which was an executive decision. Now they have said that report has been submitted. There is nothing that, you know, justifies staying out of work for now, and she has been asked to resume. But whether that will not disturb what the House of Reps is doing, I think it will have no effect whatsoever. The House of Reps will still continue with its processes. The reports will still be submitted. But mind you, some people in SEC are...
Yeah, we do. We know about, of course,
protesting.
But let's take a look at this report that the members, the House of Reps, will be reviewing today. Let's take a look. I do have some major highlights here that they have put out to the press. Top on that list was the former CEOs of Intercontinental Bank and Oceanic Bank, Ms. Cecilia Ibru and Erastus Akingbola, being recommended that they be stripped of their national honors. What are your thoughts on that?
I think there are two issues relating to this. You have two individuals involved in this now, Ms. Ibru and Mr. Akingbola. Mind you, Mr. Akingbola is still in court. I would have thought that we should allow the court processes to finish, so that if the court says he's guilty, then such actions may be taken. But what is important is that we must allow the court to make its own determination first. Then that is what you can build on. You can't build something on nothing. I mean, to be hasty to begin to strip them of their... What if they go to court and the court says they are not guilty? We don't know. So I think we should follow the process. What these things is about is that we must always follow the process, no matter how painful and no matter how difficult and no matter how long it takes.
No matter who is aggrieved, no
matter the hardship it comes with, we must just have the discipline to follow that due process. And at the end of the day, it will put everybody in a position to understand what action to take.
Okay, well, other parts of the recommendation is on the issue of the nationalized banks and the fact that the nationalization of 3 of the banks went against the AMCON Act, the NDIC Act, and the CBN. I do have on phone now the Managing Director of the Asset Management Company of Nigeria, Mr. Mustapha Chike Obi, who's going to comment on this particular recommendation made, which says that the nationalization of those 3 banks and the subsequent change of name actually went against the AMCON Act. Well, he will react to that particular part of the recommendation. Good morning, Chike Obi.
Good morning, Esther.
Okay, well, we'd just like you to quickly react to this portion of the recommendations made by the Ibrahim El Sudi report, which said that the nationalization of the 3 banks and the subsequent change of names to Main Street, Keystone and Enterprise Bank was in violation of the AMCON Act, the NDIC Act. But concerning the AMCON Act, just your own reaction over that?
Let me first of all say that I have not read the report. We have requested for a true certified copy of the report from the House of Assembly, House of Representatives, but let me assuming that the reports in the papers are correct, let me just address the issue of AMCON Act. AMCON is not a regulator. We were not involved in any regulatory aspects of what happened. We were called upon to capitalize 3 institutions in the interest of the banking system. If the committee had looked at the AMCON Act, Section 5B of the AMCON Act, it specifically says that AMCON function shall be to purchase or otherwise invest in eligible equities on such terms and conditions as the corporation with the approval of the Board of the Central Bank of Nigeria, they deem fit. In other words, our function is to invest in equities in institutions in conjunction with the Central Bank of Nigeria. So we clearly have that function. If you read Section 6C, it says AMCON shall have the powers to provide equity capital on such terms and conditions as the corporation may deem fit. So anybody that says that what we did in providing capital to those institutions was against the AMCON Act is either being mischievous or is totally ignorant of the AMCON Act.
Now, Mustafa, quickly, at some point during the investigation or towards the end, the committee members did complain that AMCON refused to furnish the committee with some very vital documents that would have helped them with their report. So perhaps maybe, like you said, that if that's what the Act says and the members were not aware of that, perhaps could you say that that was perhaps part of those documents that they required?
No, the committees requested a number of documents from AMCON. Many of those documents, again, I think the committee was confused as whether AMCON is a regulator or not, were regulatory issues. For example, they asked for the post-consolidation report of the banks. AMCON is in no position to have those documents. We responded fully to the committee. We provided them all documents that AMCON either had or controlled, and we referred them to the appropriate regulatory authorities for the other documents. We at no point refused to provide any documents to the committee. Once again, I think that statement, if it's true, is mischievous and completely unfounded.
Okay, finally, before I let you go, Mustafa, well, the report also recommended that the transactions, the process of the banks being nationalized be reviewed and investigated again and carried out by the Economic and Financial Crimes Committee. It's also recommending that both yourself, the Managing Director of the NDIC and the CBN Governor be also investigated over this particular issue. What's your reaction to that?
My reaction to that is that there have been several lawsuits in the Federal High Court regarding the process. So far, there have been some determinations, principally by Justice Archibald, that everything followed due process. I think it is inappropriate for the National Assembly to be asking us to comment on issues that are in front of courts, where we may be asked to testify to those courts. I think the expression is that it's sub judice. So I don't know. I think that the authority to determine these issues should be in the courts of the Federation. There are cases in the courts, and I quite frankly not comfortable discussing issues that are in front of competent courts, which are the appropriate authorities to make those decisions, not the behalf of the business systems.